How you going, people? This is a pretty interesting video on Netflix. So it's called Unacknowledged, and evidently this doctor, this emergency room doctor, sets up. I'm gonna give you a quick briefing of it, because I know there's some people that are like, there's no way there's other life on other planets. There's other people, there's no way there can't be life on other planets. We're just one planet out of millions and billions. And then there's the side that's, yeah, maybe there is, maybe there isn't. I think it's foolish to think that we're the only life in the whole universe. But regardless, this video releases some great classified documents. They interview a lot of people that were in the CIA, and I'm not talking about low level. I'm talking about assistant directors, chief of staff of Clinton, a few presidents. They talk about how Marilyn Monroe was taken out to where Roswell, I guess, where they took some of the stuff to see the aliens by JFK and his brother, the attorney Bobby Kennedy. So they go through a whole lot of information. I found it very interesting. The big thing on this, don't think that you're going here to be convinced that there's, aliens and spaceships. Because I don't think that convinced me that. What it did back up is like the channel Good Luck America. It shows the crookedness and the motives behind our government and why they want to keep it secret and how do they benefit by doing it. The connections, the loss of money. At one point they talk about 2.4 trillion with a T, dollars missing from the Pentagon, and they don't know where it went. Our government's losing $2.4 trillion, and they're ripping me off on my taxes every time I turn around. It just irritates the hell out of me. But the government conspiracies, the government crackdown, the secret agencies, how Congress, they even go in a little bit on how the presidents can't even say because they're using, anybody spending in the military, you know that if you have a clearance, just having a clearance doesn't get you information. You have to have a need to know and a right to know. So when I was in the military, I had a top secret clearance. So I could see things that were top secret, but I had to have a right to know and a need to know. I couldn't go get top secret information. It had nothing to do with my job, my duties, or something that I was working on or needed that information. So one of the president's chief of staff, Clinton's chief of staff, meets with this doctor. And this is an emergency room doctor talking here. So he's not some flake off the street. And, I mean, it's pretty credible, and they show a lot of documents and the motives behind the government not wanting to release this. Pretty interesting. I'm gonna run through a couple clips here.
It's now estimated that for every grain of sand on planet Earth, there is another Earth-like planet capable of sustaining life. So, can we truly be alone?
More things between heaven and hell than any of us have accepted. And I have the witnesses and the documents to prove it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Stephen Beard.
On May 9th, 2001, 20 military, government, and corporate witnesses held a press conference in Washington, D.C.
And these are folks who have been involved in so-called black budget or covert unacknowledged projects.
They described a decades-long conspiracy to cover up extraterrestrial visitation to Earth.
These unacknowledged special access projects are taking in at least $40 to $80 billion per year.
And the study of extraterrestrial technology in covert military programs.
And they are sitting on technologies that can change the world forever.
This technology would liberate Earth from fossil fuels, environmental devastation, and poverty in a single generation.
I didn't believe in UFOs until London Control called us in the winter of 1962 and asked us, would we chase one?
Their testimony would make history.
I said, well, you're going to tell the public?
Testimony would make history.
I said, well, you're going to tell the public about it. And he says, no, we don't tell the public about this. It would panic the public.
This was the most watched event in the history of the National Press Club.
We actually did recoveries of crashed saucers. There were bodies that were involved with some of these crashes, also some were alive.
It marks the beginning of the global disclosure movement.
Roswell's almost become a joke because there's so much myth and narrative around it. But if you look at the Guy Hotel document, it was a field agent sent to J. Edgar Hoover. 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in New Mexico. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall. It's become the #1 document.
Future project. What you're about to see is first-hand witness testimony of events over the past 50 years. Many are telling their stories for the first time. This is only the tip of the iceberg, as hundreds more have given us their testimony, but are too fearful to go on camera, for fear of repercussions for themselves and for their families.
A man who was friends with the director of the CIA by the time Clinton became president, who said that you're going to be the first person to brief the director of Central Intelligence and the Clinton administration on this, because they have made inquiries and they have been lied to, which I did not believe. I mean, he was that blunt about it. This is really where I then went down the rabbit hole. And so the public has to understand there became to be this bifurcation, this separation between legitimate national security and military operations and the deep black programs that are unacknowledged. We're talking about the black budget, the deep black, super secret, unacknowledged budget that runs in the $100 to $200 billion a year. I'm being conservative.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in...
Trillion, with a T.
$2.3 trillion. They can't find it. These are the people you want to give your guns to because they'll protect you. Are you kidding me?
That's $8,000 for every man, woman, and child in America.
We're spending well over $100 million per day on classified programs that have no congressional oversight, no public scrutiny. There's no monitor of these programs. A number of these programs go directly through Congress, totally. When you start going through these documents, these programs start dropping off the radar screen. These are all classified programs within the defense budget, but they don't supply any technical information on the program.
And if people think that the Congress and the President actually have a handle on this, they're gravely mistaken. They do not. This is where we get into the structure of secrecy.
The structure of secrecy is complex and multifaceted. We've been led to believe that we live in a mostly transparent democracy, with the president at the top of the intelligence.
Okay, I think this is worth the watch. What I might try to do is I might try to copy this and put it on Bitchute so those that don't have Netflix can go over. If I do, I'll put a link in the description. Pretty interesting stuff. I'm going to enable comments on this one because I want people to be able to comment and spark some conversation on this, because to me it's pretty interesting. Not so much that they exist and that the government knows it, but on why the government doesn't want to tell us. Pretty interesting stuff. All right, we'll end that there.